we went on this multi-country tour, First President's thing. We're seizing. The press made a big deal, as you know, and I write about this in the book about, I didn't get to meet the Pope. Well, a couple things. One, I wasn't on the manifest. It was a very small group of folks, and that was on that list. And there was this feeling in the press corps that I should have been on the list, like as if it was my meeting. I don't, and it was a tough moment for me because I had all these reporters talking about my faith in stories, and I was like, I've never discussed this with you. I'm a fairly private person when it comes to that, and yet, I would read these stories about how I felt. But the thing that's interesting, and I write about this in the book, is there were a couple things that happened that no one really was aware of. Number one, so I went to Dan Scavino, who runs the president's social media, and I said, hey, look, I'm not on the manifest to see the Holy Father. You are. Can you do me a favor? I'm going to give you some rosary beads. Will you bring them into the room? And I had heard that when you go in to see the Pope, that generally speaking, he blesses everything in the room. I thought, hey, that'll be pretty cool. I'll have something to give folks. And so one of the Monsignors sees Dan walk in and says, what's in the bag, whatever. And Dan says, oh, one of my buddies gave me 10 rosary beads. He says, we'll put them out on a plate. So there is now in the book this picture of the Pope with his hands on the rosary beads, blessing them. And as the meeting wraps up, and there's all these stories about this, a couple days later I get a call, and it says, hey, there's this meeting in Rome in a few weeks, and we would like to know if you'd like to come and invite it, and we're going to sit down with the Holy Father. And I said, great, can I bring my wife? And they were like, sure. I said, can I bring my kids? And they're like, okay. And I go, can I bring my mom?
Never forget mom.
They were like, yeah. And so I did. And there's a really great photo that the Vatican, we paid them to allow us to use it in the book. But there's a picture, of one of the Holy Father blessing the beads, and then there's another one in the last page of just my family with him. And I think what the lesson that I talk about in the book is this. In this day and age, we have, in many cases, as a society, become very selfish. We want something now. We want it for ourselves. And what that experience showed me was two things. One is God has a bigger plan for all of us. He didn't want that moment to be about me. That was the selfish thing. What if I could be in a meeting so that I could meet him? And if you think about what I got out of it, I get these rosary beads blessed by the Holy Father that no one else on the trip got, that I got to share with other people who hopefully feel one step closer to God because of that. And second, I did get to go meet the Pope, but he wanted me to meet him at a different time and bring him in and be able to share that moment with my family. So through patience and trust, the experience is much better. But the initial response was that I was supposed to be there and it was the president's, but through that trust and faith in God, it was a much greater experience that no one wants to talk about. They only want to talk about, oh, it was improper that you didn't get to go. To what? A meeting that wasn't mine in the first place? And so I finally, for the first time, able to talk about it because there are all these stories about how I felt, which I shared with nobody. And yet no one wanted to write the good part of the story, which is how there was a greater plan at hand. And I just needed to listen and follow it.
I think we should.